This week on Christian World News, Christians at risk in northern Iraq. See how a traditional homeland for believers is coming under the control of an Iranian-backed militia leader. Plus, a dark alliance between Turkey, Russia, and Iran. Pastor Andrew Brunson shares what God showed him in a dream and the spiritual crisis he endured while imprisoned in Turkey. And a city of refuge in the middle of an open-air drug market. We head to Colombia's Hell Street to see a team delivering much-needed shelter and hope. And welcome to Christian World News, everyone. I'm Wendy Griffith. We begin in northern Iraq, where a Christian community is at risk. Thousands of believers live in the Nineveh Plains, where they recently celebrated during Holy Week. Now the territory is coming under the control of an Iranian militia leader, raising concerns that Christians will be persecuted and driven out. Nadine Menza is the former chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, and she joins us now with more. Nadine, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nadine, tell us about this Iraqi Christian community. Why are they being threatened?
Yeah, so the oldest Christian community in the world, one of the success stories after the genocide by ISIS, the people of Karakash mostly returned to this beautiful community in the Nineveh Plains in the Hamdaniya district and had been thriving. But Rayan Kildani, an Iranian-backed militia leader who also has a political movement, who's been sanctioned by the U.S. government for human rights abuse, has gone after the Christian representation, taking 4 out of the 5 Christian seats in parliament. And then he'd went after the Nineveh Provincial Council, person by person, and converting them to be a vote through coercion, bribery, rewards, all sorts of different things. We saw it happening. And then last summer, in July, he took over the provincial council, removed 15 of the mayors and directors, and appointed 5 to empty positions. So he removed the mayor of Karakash, the mayor of Tel Kaf, the Christian mayor of Bartella, appointed the Yazidi homeland of Sinjar. And so there were court cases. The Secretary Blinken intervened. The prime minister put a hold on it. It had been going back and forth. But unfortunately, last week, the mayor of Karakash was removed and replaced with a loyalist to this militia leader, Rayan Kildani.
And let me ask you, you're just back from Iraq. What did these Christians tell you, Nadine? What kind of help do they need?
Well, they need help pushing these Iranian militias back. So what happened after the defeat of ISIS, they stepped in and filled those governance and security gaps. They controlled movement. They have checkpoints. But now they actually politically control these cities in addition to just the checkpoints. So what we need is the international community, the President of the United States, to demand that the Prime Minister Sudani pull back these militias and let the people provide security for themselves. They do have security forces ready to, they have police ready to step in those gaps. And the people should be able to choose their own leaders, not be forced upon them by really hostile takeover. This is not a man who cares about the people of Karakash. In fact, he's threatened them quite a few times, said he was going to burn their churches for not letting him come to a memorial service. He had someone with him, one of his members of parliament, who said to the people of Karakash, if you lost 100 people in a fire that had devastated the community, he said you're going to lose another 200 next time. So these are not friendly leaders for this community. And so, unfortunately, what we're going to see is probably a lot of immigration as people leave their homeland. They don't want to, but they'll be forced to because they won't be able to stay and have the kind of life they want for their families.
Is the Trump administration working on this right now? Do we know if they're doing anything?
We know they did not intervene to stop the turnover, and that seems irreversible. So that was disappointing. I do hope that during these negotiations with Iran, that the Iranian militias are on the table. But I also believe that this could be a direct ask to the Prime Minister of Iraq to pull them back. It doesn't have to come from Iran itself. We understand they're weak enough that finally the Prime Minister could do this, but he needs backing from the international community. This gives cover to him to say, I had to do it. This is just the way that politics works sometimes. So there's an opportunity here for the Trump administration to make it so these Christians can stay.
And really quickly, I think we're out of time, but we loved having you on, Nadine Menza. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
A dark alliance is developing in the Middle East. Pastor Andrew Brunson had a prophetic dream about this alliance years ago when he was imprisoned in Turkey. Recently, he spoke with CBN's Gary Lane about what it takes to endure spiritual darkness and hardship.
More than 6 years have passed since Pastor Andrew Brunson's unexpected release from a Turkish prison. And now the world focuses on a different hostage crisis. I recently asked Brunson to share his thoughts given his unique perspective. These hostages are being held unjustly, maybe not in a prison, but in a tunnel, many of them in Gaza, underground. What emotions do you feel? What are your thoughts when you see these hostage families and you see the hostage release?
When I see the reunions, it really moves me because I remember just the desperation, the desperate longing I had for freedom and to be with my family. And so then I see these people coming together after not knowing if they'll ever see each other again. And I know what they're feeling.
Brunson spent 23 years as a missionary in Turkey, sharing the gospel and planting churches. In 2016, Turkish authorities arrested him on terrorism charges for allegedly assisting the Kurdish minority and sentenced him to life in prison. Today, Brunson remains grateful to President Trump for what he describes as unprecedented efforts to negotiate his release. Upon his return to the United States, Trump invited Brunson and his wife Noreen to the Oval Office.
I remember when we prayed for him, I in the Oval Office said, "Can I pray for you?" He said, "Well, I probably need prayer than anyone else in this, more prayer than anyone else in this room." And I think it is true.
Like many Americans, Brunson believes God intervened to spare Trump's life last year in Butler, Pennsylvania. Although the Trump administration has made strides toward family and faith-friendly policies, Brunson believes the country's anti-Christian bias has a strong foothold and is deeply ingrained.
It will bring a delay, but I think the culture as a whole has already become post-Christian. And when we came back from Turkey, I came back to a different country. And I think in the last years especially, there was an acceleration toward a very aggressively anti-Christian position, especially by the ruling elite, you could say. Every institution in our country is led by people who are post-Christian and increasingly anti-Christian.
So those extreme pressures will rise up again after Trump.
I think they will because the culture hasn't changed. Our culture is actually very quickly turning away from God.
Brunson predicts the United States and other Western nations will eventually become less inclined to defend religious freedom. As a result, regional powers will rise to fill the void.
I think that Turkey, Russia, and Iran will move together in some alliance. I had a dream about this in prison that was from God. I have very few dreams from God, but this was one. And I saw them moving in a dark alliance. This was in 2016, before they started to move together. And then it started to happen. And so I think there are spiritual ties there. But I think there is an alliance that will continue in a darker direction and that will it will eventually, in the end, try to undermine Israel, yes.
Brunson always felt strong as a missionary. Then, when isolated in prison, despair overtook him, and he felt abandoned by God. Speaking at a recent Regent University chapel, he explains that his wounded heart led him into a spiritual crisis.
I began to question God's existence. And the first time I did that, I began to cry. I said, how could this happen? I've started churches, I've baptized Muslims, and here I've taught and preached for years, and now I'm even questioning whether God exists. I had many questions for God, and I became aware at some point that God had questions for me. Andrew, are you going to love me when you don't see my love? Are you going to be faithful to me when you don't see my faithfulness?
Brunson predicts American Christians will also face difficult times ahead. He encouraged students to stay strong in the face of adversity, even when God's presence is not felt.
You have to survive those times of crisis. You have to remain faithful. Your devotion to God is being tested, and you have to hold on to Him, even when you don't understand, even when you don't have answers. Will you love Him when you don't see His love? Will you be faithful when you don't see His faithfulness?
Brunson believes that people can endure when they learn to recite what God says about Himself.
I had to make a conscious decision to repeat again and again, no, God, you are faithful. You do love me, even if I don't feel it, even if I don't see it. You are good. You are true. And to say these things, even when my emotions are in turmoil and in darkness, but with my will, I can choose to speak what is true.
Guidance from Brunson's experience, trusting God while facing life's challenges. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Thanks, Gary. So powerful. Well, up next, stranded overseas. Afghan refugees once headed for America are now stuck in place. Resettlement agencies are scrambling to help. Welcome back. Religious groups are standing up for Afghan Christians who could be forced to leave the U.S. That's according to World Magazine. They're calling on the Trump administration to let some 300 Christians from Afghanistan stay here in the U.S. The administration is seeking to curtail the use of the Temporary Protected Status program. It protects some refugees from being returned to their home countries if they face danger. Well, Christians in Afghanistan face harsh persecution, including death. Thousands of Afghan refugees are stuck overseas after the U.S. paused the resettlement program. Many of those waiting to come here were left behind when the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan. Charlene Aaron explains.
A number of refugee groups are scrambling to assist those seeking safety and protection. Many of them Afghans who helped the U.S. military during the war there and had already been approved to come to America.
Those allies supported the U.S. government and the U.S. military in those countries, and there was a matter of trust, and I really trusted. And they promised that they would be brought to safety. But if that door is closed right now, I don't think that anyone would trust the U.S.
Mohammed Dad-Saweri once worked as a language assistant to the U.S. military. Now trying to help others leave, Saweri says it's heartbreaking how his fellow countrymen have been abandoned after being promised entry to the U.S.
I not only know there are Afghans allies that are stuck in Afghanistan, and they are living in a very, very risky situation under the brutal group that we fought for 20 years there.
After reaching out to the State Department about its Afghan relocation program, CBN News received the following statement. At this time, no final decisions have been made. The department has paused all U.S. government relocation flights from Kabul to third country processing platforms for Afghan refugee and Afghan special immigrant visa applicants until further notice. Since 1982, Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services has helped to resettle people from Afghanistan, Somalia, and other dangerous places. Maggie Salem serves as the group's executive director.
A lot of folks would understandably not think about the families of these allies. Those families, even extended families, are at risk.
Sean Vandiver, founder of Afghan EVAC, a veteran-led nonprofit, says the U.S. could never have accomplished its mission without the support of Afghan allies, work that put many of them at risk from the Taliban.
Without the help of local staff and local resources, we would have lost scores more American lives. These people saved us. These people protected us. These people believed us.
This pause has stalled flights from Afghanistan for some 40,000 Afghans already approved for special immigrant visas. Vandiver points out they have already gone through extensive vetting.
Before they come here, they get a whole bunch more vetting. And then once they arrive here, they get a whole bunch more vetting.
Meanwhile, Salem and Saweri say those seeking to resettle here have much to offer.
The story of America is the story of people bootstrapping, right? Like, you come here, it's really rough. If they came as an engineer or a doctor or a nurse or a carpenter, they want to be using those skills here, and we need them to.
And I really hope that the administration revisit this program and reconsider their strategies, so hopefully they can come to the safety.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Up next, homeless and hurting, how one ministry in Colombia is offering hope where it's needed most. Welcome back to Christian World News. More than 100 million people worldwide don't have a home. In Colombia, the crisis is compounded by drug addiction, poverty, and a steady flow of migrants. In the city of Medellin, a Christian ministry is providing shelter for the homeless while caring for those still on the streets. Brody Carter takes us to the city of refuge.
Colombia remains the #1 destination for Venezuelan migrants fleeing from economic collapse and political instability. Thousands arriving here, seeking for food, water, shelter, and stability. Many of them are experiencing homelessness and exploitation.
Not only the homeless, but also the migrants, the displaced people. I don't know if you heard, we have people coming from Catatumbo into Medellin, displaced because of the guerrillas. So it's becoming a bigger crisis than in the 90s.
Colombia is home to about 3 million Venezuelan migrants, a number that could likely triple by the end of this year.
Nothing will happen. They're, in fact, protected to do this. Sometimes the police comes, they don't do anything because they don't have a budget to help them. Sometimes the government don't have enough money, and sometimes because they don't know how to help them.
On top of that, close to 7 million Colombians have no home in their own country. It's a crisis continually fueled by economic struggles and ongoing conflict. And on the streets, those worlds collide.
They come here because drugs are so cheap, and they end up falling into drugs. Some of them dying of overdose.
For more than 30 years, Douglas Calvano with Fundación Ciudad Refugio has served Medellin's homeless. This open-air drug market, a stark symbol of the crisis and the challenge faced by Calvano.
This is where the government is pushing all the homeless. This is a culture within a culture.
Each week, staff and volunteers drive into the darkest corners of the city to serve as a light for those living on the street. This is how it all started for Ciudad Refugio, or the City of Refuge. Right now you're witnessing an event called Pan y Panela. They're handing out bread and sugar water for the prostitutes, drug addicts, and the homeless. They've got nowhere to go. Right now we're in an area called the Bronx. This is also called Hell Street. And their future really holds in their own hands. Whether or not they get arrested is still to be seen. Some of them might die tonight.
If you wind up in the Bronx, it's because you're at the end of your rope. You're at the worst of the worst in your life.
Harry Dietrich never imagined living in Colombia, helping lead a ministry like this. Originally from New Jersey, Harry moved to Bogota with his family almost 20 years ago. Their mission? Find where God is working and join him. Today, Dietrich oversees Ciudad Refugio's operations, from the shelter to events reaching into Medellin's most dangerous neighborhoods.
Some, nothing happened. In some others, they're touched. Some, they want to receive Christ. Some, they want to come back with us. You'll see some of these people knocking at the door tomorrow morning.
Back at their downtown headquarters, the work continues. Each night, dozens line up outside, hoping for a safe place to rest. Before entering, they must pass security checks for drugs and weapons. Those willing to follow the rules are given a mattress to sleep on the floor.
Many of the homeless are just looking for a roof, looking for a bed, looking for a meal. But if they have any type of a heart for the Lord or for restoration fully, we'll take them in and get them going in the program as soon as possible.
A program designed to restore the whole person, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. A storefront bakery integrates the ministry with the city, while also teaching job skills to those in rehab. They achieve a 65% success rate, significantly higher than most programs.
When I come here, I was sure I would die. And I was planning maybe 3-4 months more alive because I was really sick. When I come here, everything started to change inside of me.
At his lowest point as a former addict and alcoholic, Jason Marin found transformation here 6 years ago.
We have the women's program as well, and if they're below school age, many times the child will come into the program with the woman. But then we also do like a vacation Bible school every Saturday, and most of those people are Venezuelan moms with their kids.
Since I was 14 years old, I went to church, but I gave myself to things I shouldn't have. I gave my life to money and alcohol, and I clung to them.
Camila Gomez, 26, lost custody of her daughter, Jocelyn, due to addiction. Through the ministry, she found food, housing, and work. Today, she's sober and reunited with her daughter. In the basement, their church, known as The Cave, welcomes those rejected by society. Here, each story is marked by a miracle, creating the opportunity to reconnect and rebuild.
For me, it has been something supernatural. It is very beautiful to see how God is transforming our minds and our hearts every day, first of all. He's touching the deepest part of our hearts. It has been the deepest thing in our hearts, and it makes us understand that the only thing that can save us is Him.
The ministry is growing, with the goal to house more men, women, and missionaries while taking their model to other cities.
I think the church is awakening to the fact that the gospel is not just what we preach from the platform. We need to do things for people. People are tired of the right message, the right sermon. They want to see the gospel on the streets. They want to see the church moving where the need is. That, I would say that is happening in Colombia, thank God.
The real restoration is not just to stop for use drugs. It's to start to enjoy the life, to love the people, to be a good example for the people around you. Show the gospel. The love Jesus showed you, show the same love for the people.
Ciudad Refugio is a testament to the power of a life transformed by faith, even in the darkest of places. And as the need grows, so does its mission, pointing others to the cross and the importance of serving as a refuge. Reporting in Medellin, Colombia, Brody Carter, CBN News.
Great story. Thanks, Brody. And you can get Christian World News delivered straight to your inbox. To sign up for our weekly email update, just go to cbnworldnews.com. We'll be right back. Finally, this week, some good news. CBN's Emmy-nominated Superbook animated series continues to expand its outreach. The first season is now available in British Sign Language. This is an historic achievement for deaf children and families in the United Kingdom. The milestone makes the gospel more accessible for those who rely on British Sign Language as their primary communication. Congratulations to Superbook. And thanks for joining us for this week. Until next week, from all of us here, goodbye and God bless you.